Hey everyone, I'm Bill.
And I'm Wagner.
And we're with Cali Moto TV. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the garage. And welcome back. The 2021 Ducati Panigale V2 is here. Finally, you guys, I know I've been promising aftermarket parts. We have a lot of parts here already. Today, we're doing 3 of a 4-part? 5-part front brake replacement on the Panigale V2. So let's take a look here. We've got it up on the lift. So today we are going to be pulling the wheel off. We're going to be replacing the rotors and the calipers and the brake pads here with brand new Brembo T-Drive rotors, Brembo Stylema calipers, and Ferroto race bikes. Now, you guys, popular demand here, the Pitbull front wheel stand. You guys have been yelling at me to get one. And it's not like I didn't want to get one. I hadn't been ordering from Pitbull, and so we just ordered a whole bunch of restraints for the trailer, so I thought I'd throw that in the cart. So if you guys have a front tire wedge from Pitbull, you'll need that. And these are the parts you're gonna need. You're gonna need a torque wrench, an impact gun. I know, you guys yelled at me about the S1000R, but remember, we're only removing the bolts with the impact gun. We're not using the impact gun to replace the bolts. You're gonna use your little front hub adapter. For the rotors, you're gonna need a T40. And for the pinch bolts, you're gonna need a 6mm. And for the calipers, you're gonna need an 8mm. Bungees, you'll see what we use those for. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get the chesty cam on and get these things replaced. I'm thinking, you know, with bleeding and everything, we're probably gonna be an hour full video, but full time. We are going to do all 3 of these in this video, so if you guys are only looking at replacing the rotors, you guys can do phase 1. If you guys are looking to do the calipers, phase 2. If you guys are looking to do a brake change, well, we've already done a brake change video, so you guys can see that. We'll link it up above, but you ready? All right, let's get started. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is basically, if you guys haven't seen the wheel wedge, very useful. I've seen it used many times. You can see it's got a little knob and it's gonna go up. So what we do is we go ahead and lower this all the way, and we're gonna slide this underneath the wheel, and you snap it onto your Pitbull stand, okay? So we're gonna snap it on here, and then you'll see that down below, now we can twist this, and all you're gonna do is you're twisting it just enough that you touch the bottom of the wheel. So you can see now it's on the bottom of the wheel. The wheel's not really moving, okay? So what we're gonna, why this makes it easy is when we got the wheel, now the wheel just kind of rolls off the front. But where it's really beneficial is putting the wheel back on because, well, the hubs are gonna line up. So let's go ahead and first start with the pinch bolt. So we're gonna grab our, let's see, what is this, 6mm? And we're going to loosen up the bottom 4 pinch bolts, which are underneath 1, 2, and 1, 2. All right, so before you loosen the pinch bolts on this side, just start with this side because we're gonna have to remove the bolts. So you're gonna grab your little tool here. We're gonna go right on the front, and then we're gonna go ahead and grab our little breaker bar and get that nut loose. All right, now that our nut is loose, we're gonna go ahead and remove the nut. So the reason why we don't break the other side is we want that axle, we don't want that axle just to be spinning. So now that this side is removed, go ahead and grab your 6mm and loosen these 2 pinch bolts. All right, so before we remove the axle, we've got to remove the calipers. So we're gonna take our 8mm, I believe, and we're gonna remove bolt number 1 and bolt number 2 of this caliper, and then onto the other side. Now that's what these bungees are for. So I've got 2 bungees. We're gonna hang the caliper out here out of the way to make sure that it doesn't scratch or hit anything. So go ahead and remove these 2 bolts and then pull the caliper off. All right, so if you guys are looking real close, you'll notice that my spacers are on the inside of the calipers. The reason is because these are 330 discs. These are actually off my Street Fighter. So the spacer comes out here. For you V2 guys, so I'm gonna be careful when I pull this out, but for you V2 guys, the spacer is gonna be in the back, okay? So don't pay attention to mine, but when you do pull these out, you're gonna make sure you grab your spacers, okay? So you've got the bolts and spacers, and the caliper is ready to come off. So you're gonna gently come off, be careful around the wheel, and you're gonna get right to the edge, and then these calipers will just slide right out. All right, and then I hooked the bungee up here, and we have the TM, what is it, TWM levers. So it's real nice. They got the little spike right there, so you can actually hang the rotors or the calipers up out of the way. So let's head over to the other side and pull that caliper off over there. All right, so we're gonna remove bolt number 1, and then bolt number 2, and then carefully remove the rotor. And we'll get a bungee here, and we'll hang this one up out of the way. All right, so now we're ready to remove the axle from the front wheel. Remember, we've got it up on the pit bull stand, so it's not moving. So what I usually do is I actually just grab the socket and put it in there. It gives me a little something just to bump. And you'll notice that it starts to pop out on this side, and then we can go ahead and grab it and pull it out here. So go ahead and grab the axle, slide it out. There goes our spacer. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna wheel this down. Now the fender is gonna hit, but you go ahead and just pull the wheel down and out, just careful of the fender. All right, so with the wheel removed, and you're gonna put it on a nice surface I've got on the table, you're gonna notice that what I've done is I've got the right side up. So the right side of the bike here is up, and this ring, we're gonna pay attention to this because we need to put this ring continually on the right side, okay? So this is your ABS ring. So if you look down here, here's your ABS sensor right here, okay? So you wanna make sure that the ABS ring stays on this side. So we're gonna do one side at a time. This is a T40, so we're gonna use an impact wrench just to kind of pull these loose. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're gonna pull the rotors off and then put the new rotors on and the ABS ring up on top. All right, with the air impact on very low, we're gonna go ahead and put it in and just slightly loosen them. All right, all 5 bolts have been removed, so we're gonna go ahead and keep it just like this. Let's go ahead and set that aside and go ahead and grab your rotors, pull your rotors off, hand them to your lovely assistant. And we're gonna grab our first rotor and we're gonna identify if there is a right and left on the rotor. And if they're directional, I believe they are not, but let's go ahead and just grab them both and identify if there is identifying marks. It looks like they are not directional. It looks like they can be replaced either side. So if you guys are doing the new T-drives, Brembo riding on the outside, okay? You're gonna see the concave here. That's gonna go on the inside, so that slides in here, okay? We're gonna line up the bolts. We'll take our ABS ring and we're going to go ahead and slide the ABS ring on. And then we're going to take our bolts out and we're going to make sure that we blue Loctite each of these bolts and torque them down to specification. Remember, we want to use blue Loctite, not red Loctite, you guys. Red Loctite is permanent. Oh. And we just need a little bit. We don't need a lot. So I'm gonna go ahead and use this on the next couple. All right, so remember, we are hand tightening these down. So you're gonna go all the way down on each of the 5 bolts, and then we're gonna torque them down to spec. All right, so we've got our little nifty torque wrench. We're gonna torque the bolts down in a star pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 30 Newton meters. So go ahead and go down, put a little pressure down, and go into 30 Newton meters. All right, so we're done. Go ahead and flip the wheel over to the other side. And now you'll notice there's no ABS ring over here. 5 bolts, remove the disc goes on, torque them down to 30 Newton meters, and then we're ready to put it back on the bike. All right, so 5 bolts removed. Go ahead and pull off our rotor. Actually, let's go ahead, pull off our bolts as well. Trusty assistant, thank you, love. And we'll grab our other rotor and we'll line it up. And remember, a little bit of blue Loctite, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Torque them in a star pattern at 30 Newton meters. All right, so I like to use a little bit of Super Lube. Super Lube is a synthetic grease. So we're gonna put a little bit just on the bearings here, or on the spacer, just a little bit. It doesn't need to be major. So I'm gonna probably take some of this off, and then we're gonna go ahead and slide this into the wheel on this side, and a little bit on the other side. All right, and then after, you know, every time I don't put lube on the axles, but about every 2 or 3 times I remove the wheel, I'll clean the axle, clear of all the old lube, and then we'll put a little bit thin layer after, you know, like I said, 2 or 3 times of removing the axle, I clean it and re-lube it. You don't have to do it every time because you'll notice that there's lube on there, but you'll start to notice that it starts to get dirty. So we wipe it off, and then we're gonna get just a little bit of lube and go ahead and just put it all the way down the axle, and then just kind of work it all the way around. All right, so the wheels should be pretty lined up. We're gonna take our axle, slide it in the wheel, and all the way through, make sure everything lines up on each side. And then we're gonna go ahead and push this axle nice and in, just so it's a little bit more. You might use a little bit of mallet just to kind of pound it through. And then once you've got it over here, then we'll do the rest on the axle nut side. All right, so we're gonna give it a little tap all the way in, make sure that it's nice and in all the way. Then what we're gonna do is we're actually going to tighten these pinch bolts just tight enough. We're not gonna torque them yet, just tight enough, okay? We don't need to torque them all the way down yet. And then we'll get the axle nut greased up over here and in here, and we'll get them all tight and torqued down, and then onto the calipers. All right, so axle nut's gonna go in, and we're going to torque the front axle down to 63 Newton meters. And at 63 Newton meters, now our pinch bolts are 9 Newton meters. Very careful not to snap these off. 9 Newton meters, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is get the fluid out of here. So if you guys don't have a power bleeder, you can just do it the old fashioned way, basically crack the nut loose and just let it drip into a pan. I've got the power bleeder. So what we're gonna first do is take the power bleeder up to the master and clear it all out from the master. Then we're gonna come down to this caliper. We're gonna crack it open and just basically bleed all of the fluid through there. Yes, there will be air in the line, that's correct. But what we wanna do is we just basically wanna pull all the fluid out, so when we pull this caliper off, it doesn't leak everywhere. All right, so we're gonna take our power bleeder onto the valve we've already cleared up top, grab our 8mm and basically just crack this banjo loose, your little bleeder nut. Go ahead and open it up all the way, and then go ahead and grab your bleeder and hook it up and just pull all the fluid out. And while we got the bleeder out, we're gonna go ahead and bleed the other side while we're here. All right, so now what we're gonna do is go ahead and break the banjos loose. It's a 12mm, and you're basically just gonna grab a rag, wrap it around, because there's still gonna be a little bit of fluid, and then you're just gonna break this banjo nut loose and break the caliper off the banjo. With the bolt loose, we're gonna go ahead and pull the banjos loose, and you'll notice that there are the little copper washers in there. That's fine, they've got replacements. So you'll see no fluid comes out, which is real nice. So we're gonna go ahead and grab our towel just in case it drips. And basically this is what we're gonna be replacing. So you'll notice that here's our new set, much different. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and pull the little spacer off here, and Brembo has supplied you guys with new copper washers. So we're gonna make sure we use those. So we're gonna take the nut out, put copper washer, banjo, copper washer, banjo, and then the banjo bolt. All right, so we've got the old caliper off. Now we're gonna move on to the new caliper. Now the new caliper, we're gonna go ahead and replace these brakes. So with these, we're gonna go ahead and pull the brakes completely out. So you'll notice that there's a little piece of cartridge in there. So we're gonna go ahead and pull the old, or the new pads that we're not gonna use. We're gonna pull those out. Now for most of you, it's fine. These will actually be really, really good brake pads, but we wanted to get the new, more of a racing pad since this bike really lives on track. So we're gonna go with the new Peroto race pads. So what's also nice about the new caliper, the Stylema, is this one you had to take the bolt out. That's what holds those pads in there. With this one, you just make sure that the pistons are pushed in all the way. And we're gonna take our pads, slide it in and in. So there's a little bit of a spring there. Grab our other pad and you'll feel the spring. Go ahead and get it in there. And you'll notice that these just slide right in. All right, so now with the brake pads in, we're gonna go ahead and hook them up to the Banjos. Now up on the Banjos, you guys are gonna see that there is, let's take the nut out. So there's a washer, the nut, and a washer. So 3 total washers came out of this side. So we're gonna go ahead and make sure these are stacked correctly. And Brembo's supplied you with new washers. So let's go ahead and crack this open and go Banjo, washer, Banjo, washer, washer, caliper. All right, so remember, Banjo bolt, 1, Banjo, washer, Banjo, and last, we've got 1 washer before you grab the caliper and go ahead and start threading the caliper in. Don't cross thread it. All right, so we're gonna leave this a little bit loose and the Banjo loose. And what we're gonna do is go ahead and just get this mounted right onto the new caliper or the new rotor and the wheel. So we're gonna go ahead and line that all up and then grab our bolt. Remember, spacer for us goes on the inside. If you guys have replaced the rotors and you guys have gone to these new T-drives, you are going to have to do the spacer conversion because the spacers now, these are 330 rotors that they're going to be expanded. So we need a spacer now on the inside. So go ahead and make sure the spacers are on the inside. Bolt goes in, and then let's go ahead and snug this caliper down and onto the other side. All right. She always laughs that I keep everything, you guys. All of these tubs all have the stock stuff from all of our bikes. And she is thanking me now because I had to dig into my tub of parts because the Street Fighter V4S bolts, actually, I replaced them with V4 Evo titanium bolts. And well, we went to go tighten them, and wouldn't you know, the caliper bolts, and you can actually see the calipers are actually too long and they bottomed out, and we need smaller ones. So I was able to dig out my Street Fighter caliper bolts, and we'll go ahead and now replace them. Remember, again, the spacer goes in here, and so you guys will need, if you guys are doing the Stylema replacements, you're gonna need shorter bolts. You're gonna need a Ducati Street Fighter or a Panigale V4S bolts. And like I said, V4 Evo has titanium set. That's what I have on the Street Fighter. Very, very nice bolts. You're gonna notice this is gonna go right on down and snug up real nice. So super clutch on that one. So remember, you guys will have to replace the bolts with new shorter bolts. All right, so we've got this side all mounted. We're not torqued yet. I believe 63 Newton meters torque here, or excuse me, 45 Newton meters. And this is still loose, okay? But what I wanna do is go over to the other side and go ahead and get that side buttoned up. Then we're gonna go through the whole system, torque everything, and then start the bleeding procedure. All right, we've got our 12 millimeter Banjo nut loose. Go ahead and remove the Banjo. You'll notice that no fluid or very little fluid should come out. All right, with the new brake pads in, Banjo bolt, copper washer through the Banjo. Grab your other copper washer through the bottom of the bolt. Grab your caliper and go ahead and get the 12 millimeter threaded on, not tight yet. Just go ahead and get it threaded on nice and snug. Go ahead and grab our caliper And the brake pad fell out. There we go. And then slide it gently onto the new rotors. And we'll grab our new shorter bolts. Remember, you gotta have the shorter bolts. Grab our old black spacers off of here. Remember, spacer on the inside now. And bolt through. Spacer on the bottom, inside. And bolt through. And then we're just gonna go ahead and snug them up for now. All right, so we've taken the Banjo Bleeder out of the Banjo bolt. You're gonna notice that you've got your 12mm Banjo in here. We're gonna take our 12mm socket. Very important to torque this down to spec, 23 Newton meters, okay? So we're gonna go ahead in here. Let's go ahead and get to the side and go 23 Newton meters. All right, so torque down. We're gonna go ahead and grab our Banjo Bleeder and just go ahead and thread that in. And we can leave that loose because we're gonna need to bleed it. Now go ahead and grab our torque wrench and we're gonna torque down to 45 Newton meters on the caliper bolts. Now again, go ahead and remove your Banjo Bleeder out of this side. And that should expose your 12 millimeter here. And we're gonna go ahead and tighten that down to 23 Newton meters. Be careful of the brake hoses. Make sure that they're nice and aligned and get another hand to hold them there because as you torque them, they're gonna rotate down. So go ahead or rotate up, I guess, in this sense. So have somebody hold those while you torque that down to 23 Newton meters. All right, and don't forget your Banjo Bleeder. I've removed the little cap for now. It's gonna give us a little better access into here. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our power bleeder and we're gonna bleed. We're gonna start from the other side. So we're gonna take our brake fluid. We're gonna fill up the reservoir and we're gonna continue to watch the reservoir. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna fill this, fill this, fill this, fill this as we're bleeding the other side. Once we're done bleeding the other side and we see good fluid come out, we're gonna come over here, bleed here, go back to there, bleed there, come back to here, bleed here. And then we're gonna do the old-fashioned manual pump, pump, hold, and a manual bleed. All right, so with the fluid full, remember, if you guys are using a power bleeder, you've got to zip tie open your master because the fluid won't flow through otherwise, okay? So we've got an open gateway here, which now basically gives us an opportunity to go here. So we're gonna go ahead and tighten this side down for now, 8mm. And then we're gonna head over to the other side and use our power bleeder and start power bleeding this one until we start to see fluid. Then we're gonna lock it down, go to the other side till we see fluid, lock it down over here, fluid, lock it down over there, fluid, lock it down, and then we'll do the manual bleed. All right, we're about halfway down through the reservoir. So you'll notice that through there, we're about halfway down and fluid started coming out of the hose. So now we're gonna go ahead and close this reservoir or this Banjo off. We're gonna head to the other side and then open that side, back to this side, over to that side. All right, so you'll see we didn't bleed this dry. Don't bleed this dry, okay? So now we're about a quarter, or less than a quarter. Now we're gonna fill it back up and then go to the other side, rinse and repeat. All right, so we're gonna carefully top off our fluid one more time. And you can see I have unzip tied the brake. So now we're gonna get our very first feel of this master. So a couple pumps just to get the fluid all the way down. It'll take a second before it starts to feel real good. But you'll start to, as the fluid starts to get into here and the brake pads clutch down, you'll start to feel some pressure. It's still gonna be spongy because there still is air in here. So we're gonna go ahead and just get it pumped in. You can see actually the fluid's still going down. So it's still coming. There we go. We're starting to get some feel in it. All right. So now what we're gonna do is the old-fashioned pump, pump, hold, and bleed. What we're gonna do is our lovely assistant. We're going to pump, pump, and hold, And then you're gonna crack the bleeder, close the bleeder, pump, pump, hold, crack the bleeder, tighten the bleeder, and repeat. So we're gonna start on the other side first. This is why the assistant's gonna be very helpful. And we're just gonna basically, if you don't have a bleeder, you can grab a line, a hose, and just put it on top of the bleeder. I'm just gonna continue to use the power bleeder without the power bleed. So go ahead and grab your 8mm, and let's head over to the other side and pump, pump, hold, bleed. All right, so our 8mm on here, our bleeder on here, and pump, pump, hold, open, close, pump, pump, hold, open, close. All right, you guys are gonna watch this hose. You're gonna see all the air coming out. So pump, pump, hold, and now it's almost all solid fluid. Pump, pump, hold. All right, on to the other side. Pump, pump, hold. There we go. And pump, pump, hold. You see the air coming out of it. Pump, pump, hold. All right, so you guys can see we've bled through about half of the fluid, so go ahead and top it off again. And don't be afraid to use fluid. Use as much fluid as you want, okay? So now we're gonna move to the master, and we've gotta bleed the master now. So the bleeder for the master's here. We're gonna continue to do the same thing. Pump, pump, hold, and then master, open, close, pump, pump, hold, open, close. All right, so I used the power bleeder one last time on this. You can manually do it. It just was easier to do the power bleeder. And someone was in a panic mode. You can see the brakes are definitely getting stiffer here. So we're gonna continue with the manual mode. Pump, pump, hold, open, close, get all the fluid. And then we're gonna start on the other side and we're gonna go through the whole system one last time. All right, so we noticed on the other back side of this caliper, the other one didn't have it, is an extra bleeder hose. So we're gonna go through after we've bled through the system 2-3 times. We went back to the back side and we're gonna go ahead and bleed those too. But you can see the brake is like so nice now. All right, so we have the new T-Drive rotors on with the Ferroto brake pads and the new Brembo Stylema calipers all the way up. We will have the RCS install soon, but again, we need our joystick, but you can see this lever is real nice now, real nice. All new fluid all the way through the front brake setup, so very, very nice. Hour and a half probably. I think we took our time, made sure that the system was really bled. This brake system from this V2 has been a problem ever since Bogdan bought this bike. We just actually had it at the dealer and they actually denied any warranty claims because we had a lever installed. We had brake pads, what were they? EBC brake pads on there and aftermarket rotors, which were Ducati stock rotors. So, you know, it's just, you guys always ask me, will this void your warranty? Everything will void the warranty. A lever voided the warranty for the brake system. So we just decided to go ahead and do the full brake system. So stay tuned, you guys. We will get the RCS 17 and that full setup because it's a job of its own because we've got to get the little joystick put on there and everything like that. So stay tuned, but thank you guys for sticking around. Today, we're heading out tomorrow morning to Chuck for this weekend. So Bogdan will be able to test this out. So we will give you a status report soon, but thank you guys again. Stay tuned. Again, the rig is pretty much loaded up. We're ready to go. So do the normal, hit the subscribe button, smash the like button, and then ring the bell notification. Bell notification is going to give you future notification of future content. If you guys are interested in this setup, shoot me an email. My email's down below, and we will get you the best, absolute best pricing. I've got a parts guy that will, I guarantee you, he will get you the best pricing. So if you guys are interested in this setup, hit me up in the email down below. But thank you guys, and we'll see you at Chuckwalla.